whether it was G.I. Joe. I love G.I. Joe. He was a little army man. He had all the neatest, strictest equipment, and he always fought the bad guys. And it was easy to tell the bad guys they were always black. G.I. Joe always had camo on, always had four-wheel drives and lots of guns. And so I was G.I. Joe all the way. And so we went for our own superheroes as young kids. These young people probably have somebody they look up to that's a superhero you like. And many times it's good to look and say, you know, that's honorable cause. And we look at some superheroes, and you know, some of the superheroes now they're kind of arrogant and they're full of sarcasm and they're kind of jerks. And like the one that plays the Iron Man, he's always kind of a little arrogant and kind of always getting caught in something because of it. But it makes for entertainment. But what about real superheroes? What about really somebody you can look up to that's actually a real, not a fictional character? Well, the first superhero of your life should be Jesus Christ. And you can look up to him. He is the God-man that walked the face of the planet and struck down Satan in the angelic conflict by delivering a crushing blow at the cross. And so we always look up to Christ. But there's also other characters in the Bible. There are other names, and one of them is Michael the Archangel, and we have him in our next verse. Let's look at Jude, verse 8, we looked at last week, the description of the false teachers, false prophets. It says, likewise, these dreamers. We saw that the dreamers were full of mental attitude sins. They defile the flesh, and the word for defile here is to roll in the sewer, to soil oneself. They reject authority, and we saw that they have an anti-authoritarianism attitude, and they speak evil of dignitaries. And we're going to see that we ought not be speaking evil of the dignitaries. God has placed them in their positions. And we're going to look at some points on that. We have an example of someone who did not speak evil. It says, yet Michael, the archangel, in contending with the devil, when he disputed about the body of Moses, dared not bring against him a reviling accusation, but said, the Lord rebuke you. And so what we're going to do in verse 9, we're going to look at Michael first. I want you to see, let me go over here. We're going to look at verse 9. We're going to look at some points. The first point is going to be some points on angels. You need to learn something about angels. You have three categories in the Bible, that three main categories you can look at. You have God, you have angels, and you have man. And you can see that God is actually, he's never been created. He has no beginning and no end, but he created angels, the next category of life here, and then created man. And so that man is much lower than angels, but we're going to find out when we study in Colossians. Guess what God did? He took man, and when he put you in Christ, he raised you above the angels, and now you're positionally higher than the angels because you're in Christ. So we have three categories here. We have God, angels, and man. Angels are super creatures. And we don't know how many angels there are. There's millions of angels at least, and maybe billions of angels. We know there's a lot of them. We know that angels can fly through the universe faster than the speed of light. We know that angels can only be in one place at one time. They're not like God, omnipresent. And so angels are created beings. Michael is an elect angel. That means that he chose to stay with God in heaven. He did not fall with Satan. And so we have Michael, the angel. They are super creatures, and we understand they have superpowers. Remember, they're like superheroes. Michael is a strong angel. I like, find out some more points on Michael here. Each angel has a rank and name. And so, you look in the Bible, you're going to see there are a couple angels that are mentioned over and over, Michael and Gabriel. But we know that angels have job positions. You read through the Bible, you're going to see seraphim and cherubim. All different kinds of angels and all different kinds of jobs throughout the Bible. Michael is a military type angel. He is a sure enough stout angel. When you see somebody that's strong in the Bible, it's Michael. Michael, he is the supreme athlete of angels. Not only that, he's trained in warfare. And he trains others in warfare. And so all the angels in the Bible are male. Some angels are said to have wings, but not all of them, okay? So when you think of angels, you can think of angels with wings. And many times the angels in the Bible, when they're described with wings, they have more than just one pair of wings. If you see the seraphim in Isaiah, you see that they have 6 wings. And so you think of angels and you see pictures out here, but the pictures are not accurate of the angels. And so we do know that all the angels are male, and know when you die, you do not become an angel. That's what they teach you in the Baptist church. Well, no, they're an angel in heaven, and the little babies are flying around in heaven with wings, so that's not right. And so all angels are, in the Bible, are revealed as male. Michael is the archangel here. And his name is pronounced in the Hebrew, Mikael. I'm trying to learn some Hebrew, and I'm going to tell you, it is hard. I can't even learn the first word because you know what you have to be able to do to speak Hebrew? You've got to have this guttural on almost every word that they say. It has a at the end of it. You got to sound like you're kind of coughing right up here, and I haven't figured it out yet. So even though it says pronunciation, Mikael, it would have a in there somewhere. But it's not pronounced like we have it in English. So the point is, if you go to heaven, if you die and go to heaven tonight, you're not going to walk up to Michael and say, "Hey, Mike, what's up?" It's probably going to sound something like the Hebrew, Mikael. But what does Michael mean in the Hebrew? Who is like God? I love this. Because Michael is a question. The very name is who is like God. And I love this because it points to God's glory and His greatness. And His very name is grace-oriented. Don't look at me, but I want to ask you a question. Who is like my master? And the answer is no one. And so His very name doesn't say, look at me like Satan did, said, I'm the most beautiful angel, you need to follow me. Michael's name says, who is like God? Don't look at me, but look at Him. See, we're talking about a real superhero here. someone who's not arrogant. Michael is described as being the protector of Israel in Daniel. He's in there 3 different times. Daniel chapter 10, verse 13, and also 21. And then also Daniel 12:1. He appears to Daniel. He's so magnificent in appearance that Daniel faints and he goes weak. And we see him in the Old Testament here. Many times when Michael appears, he's not named. It just says a strong angel or the leader of heaven's armies. And so many times it doesn't say Michael appeared. It just says the strong angel, or it says the angels of heaven's armies. At Christmas, at the first birth, the angels appeared. And I believe Michael was there. Michael, we know, is the leader of the armies of heaven. Now, we know Jesus Christ, the King of Kings and Lord of Lords, he's going to lead. He is the absolute ruler of the church and of angels. But he has placed Michael in his chain of command as the general of heaven's armies. I want you to see what happens over here in Revelation 12. You're pretty close. You can flip over there. If you don't know anything about prophecy, you're missing out. You are totally missing out, because what's happening in the world right now is so exciting. It is so exciting when you know prophecy. Because you see how, right now, you see how Asia is making a comeback in the world. There was a time there when, at World War II, where Japan, we just got through nuking them, and they were down and out, and in China, they were a non-entity. They're still eating mud and grass over there to stay alive. And the Philippines have been destroyed by the Japanese, and it didn't look good at all over there in the land of the rising sun. But now, you look at what's happening, you can see China coming to the forefront of industrialization. They are the #1 manufacturing country in the world. We're no longer it. We now offer services, not hard goods. And so, you know, if you go to Walmart, most of it's made in China. They're manufacturing. In the Philippines, manufacturing has come to the forefront. Japan, the technology there is just absolutely taking the forefront in the automobile manufacturing. And so we see the land of the rising sun. We know they're going to march a huge army into Israel during the tribulation. And we can see that it can happen now. They have the means now to make it happen. Did you know where part of your paycheck is going to go when you grow up and I'm dead? You know where a major part of your paycheck is going to go? To China. Because you are going to owe China, I'm going to say at least 1/3 of what you make. You know, all of you young children. Because of what our politicians have done. Did you know that our present administration has spent more money than all of the previous presidents or administrations of the United States history? In Barack Obama's 2 terms, he has spent more money than any other president combined. They've spent more money than the whole U.S. government's history. You know what that means? You're going to owe China. See, somebody's got to pay it back. And if you don't pay it back, guess what else you had to look forward to? Being slaves to China. Yes, being slaves to China. And did you know what the Chinese rule is? Communism. That means you own no property. It means you work for the government and they put you where they want you, and you can't even own a milk cow, son. You can't even keep the eggs from your chicken. They go into the basket and somebody else gets them. And so that we see the land of the rising sun coming back to the forefront. And we see that the United States is in a predicament. And so what do we have to do to get out of it? We've got to build a pivot somehow. Now, in Revelation 12, we're going to see what happens at the midpoint of the tribulation. I'm going to start in verse 1. It says, "Now a great sign appeared in heaven, a woman," the woman here is Israel, "clothed with the sun, with the moon under her feet." Isn't it amazing, at the birth of Christ, the constellations had this very format. In the stars, you could see it. And on her head, a garland of 12 stars. These are the 12 tribes of Israel. Then, being with child, she cried out in labor and in pain to give birth. And this is Israel producing the Messiah, Jesus Christ, the first Christmas. She was in pain because she's under the fifth cycle of discipline. Verse 3, "And another sign appeared in the heaven. Behold, a great fiery red dragon," this is Satan, "having 7 heads and 10 horns." And this points to the revived Roman Empire and the 10-nation confederation during the tribulation. There's 10 nations that's going to rise out of Europe to form an alliance in the tribulation. And out of that 10 nations, the Antichrist is going to rise. And this is going to be the revived Roman Empire. And this is why you have 7 and 10. Verse 4. This looks back to before time. "His tail," that is the dragon's tail, "drew 1/3 of the stars out of heaven." This is 1/3 of the angels who fell with Satan, "and threw them to the earth." This is the first fall of Satan. "And the dragon stood before the woman," this is Satan, standing before Israel, "who was ready to give birth, to devour her child as soon as it was born." And this is Herod destroying the infants as soon as Christ was born, when he was a youngster. Verse 5, "She bore a male child," the first Christmas, "who was to rule all the nations with a rod of iron." When Jesus comes back at his second advent, he will be the monarch of the earth. He is going to rule with justice and a rod of iron. "And her child was caught up to God and his throne." This is the ascension of Jesus Christ. "Then the woman fled into the wilderness, where she has a place prepared by God, that they should feed her there 1,260 days. We see that Israel is going to be able to, the believers in Israel are going to be able to flee Satan's wrath at the midpoint of the tribulation, because he's going to come down with great fury. Let's read on. "And war broke out in heaven." This is in the third heaven. "And Michael and his angels fought with the dragon." Now, let's just go to a diagram, because this could be confusing. Are you following this? You getting this? Let's put the earth here. Let's put the third heaven over here. We don't know where it's at. We just know it's beyond the universe. And if you keep going from the earth far enough, you keep finding the edge of the universe. We as man will never find the end of it. But we do know beyond the second heaven, which is stellar space, there is the third heaven. Now, Satan has access to the throne room of God right now. We know in the Bible, if you read Job, he shows up there quite often. And you know what he's doing? He said, Have you seen Preston down there on earth? Don't you say he's your man? He's your believer? See, he's accusing you. But don't worry, you have an advocate. His name is Jesus Christ. And he's sticking up for you. Okay, so Satan gets to show up with the angels every once in a while in the third heaven. But at the midpoint of the tribulation, God is going to say, no more, Satan. You no longer get to appear before my court. And Satan is going to say, all right then, he's going to go, we're going to have a fight right here. Satan is going to attempt to take over the throne of Jesus Christ. Have you ever thought about this? Satan was bored in eternity past because his job was to guard the throne of Jesus Christ. You know that? He was a messianic cherub that covers. He was a guard. Now, I'm thinking he's been replaced. And Michael may have taken his job as the guard. Satan is going to attack the throne of Jesus Christ. Jesus Christ is seated. He's in session right now. Right here we see war is going to break out in the throne room. And Satan is going to attack the throne, the very job that he revolted from. He's been replaced. And war broke out in the third heaven. And Michael and his angels fought with the dragon. I like this. See, you're talking about superhero extraordinaire here. You can't even make a movie this good. If I were to make a movie in Hollywood, you know what it would be? The angelic conflict. And we would have angels fighting and making war. We would have man in the midst. And we'd have people like Billy Graham standing up against the devil and holding his Bible up and preaching the gospel. And we'd have people like Michael, the archangel here. You couldn't write it. And his angels fought. And so we've got war breaking out in heaven. You know why I chose to fight for God? Because I read Revelation and I saw who won. I don't want to fight for Satan. He's going to get beat. Join God's team, see? And it says, and the dragon and his angels fought, but they did not prevail. Well, like this. They got hammered. Satan got put in the headlock. They did not prevail, nor was a place found for them in heaven any longer. And so the elect angels mocked up. Michael and his team, see, they're training right now for this. And they're getting ready for a great fight that is going to break out in the tribulation. It could be as soon as 3.5 years from right now when this fight is going to break out in heaven. Verse 9, so the great dragon was cast out. This is Satan's second fall. See, his first fall, he cast down to earth in Genesis, between Genesis 1:1 and 1:2. Now his second fall, he's cast out of the third heaven. He no longer has access to the throne room. He was cast out, that serpent of old called the devil and Satan, who deceives the whole world. Guess what, your unbelieving friends, they have a blinders on, don't they? They don't understand your gospel. They don't understand your Bible. They don't understand your Christian way of life. And you know why? Satan has deceived them. He was cast down to the earth, and his angels were cast out with him. Then I heard a loud voice saying in heaven, now salvation and strength in the kingdom of our God and the power of his Christ have come. For the accuser of our brethren who accused them before our God day and night has been cast down. And they overcame him by the blood of the Lamb and the word of their testimony, and that they did not love their lives to the death. Therefore rejoice, O heavens, and you that dwell in him. Woe to the inhabitants of the earth and the sea, for the devil has come down to you having great wrath, because he knows that he has but a short time. See, their attack failed in heaven. He did not take over the throne of Jesus Christ. He's cast down to earth, He knows there's only 3.5 years left for him to get the job done. His only opportunity to show that God is not God is to destroy the Jews, because the Jews are they are going to inherit the earth. God has promised, and if Satan can destroy the Jews, God is not God, because he cannot keep their promises. And so see what happens in verse 13. Now when the dragon saw he had been cast down to earth, he persecuted the woman, Israel, who gave birth to the male child. But the woman, these are believers in Israel, was given the wings of an eagle, that she might fly into the wilderness, to her place where she is nourished for a time and time and a half, that is the second half of the tribulation, from the presence of the serpent. And so we go on, and we see how believing Israel is delivered from the serpent, from Satan. There are only 2 remnants that are saved. The rest, unbelieving Jews, are slaughtered throughout the earth. There's only 2 remnants that remain. The ones that flee to the mountains, and there's going to be one small section of the city in Jerusalem who the Jewish people who want to fight, the ones that want to fight, are delivered. And that's the believers. And do you know what they've done? They've gunned up. They've got the AR-15s, and they've got magazines, and they've got ammo, and they've got the grenades, and they've got the rocket launchers, and they're all militaristic. They want to fight. They want to stay alive. And they're saying to the invaders, I dare you to come out in the street. And they set up a perimeter in downtown Jerusalem, and they make a fortification, and God protects them right there in the middle. It's called the aloof, the general. They're going to do it. Do you know what I've noticed? I've got a lot of friends in Israel now. I get to look at their lives. A lot of them want to pet puppy dogs now. And a lot of them don't want to be men. And they want to be lovers, not fighters. Well, guess what? Don't forget how to fight, even though you're a lover, because these men are going to rally the troops right here, and there's going to be some pacifists. They're going to say, oh, they won't harm us. Let's just go out and meet them in peace. And they're going to be slaughtered by the invaders that come through Israel and Jerusalem. And so Michael, here we see point number 4. He is going to overcome the invading force into the third heaven. Satan and 1/3 of the angels are going to be kicked out down the earth during the midpoint of the tribulation. Point number 5, he has an argument with Satan. This is what our verse is about. This goes back to Deuteronomy 32, where Moses dies on Mount Nebo. This goes way back in time. Remember, Moses can't go into the promised land because he struck the rock the second time. The first time he was supposed to strike the rock and bring water forth. But the second time God says, do not strike the rock, speak to the rock, and water will come forth. And Moses got mad at the people, and he said, must I strike the rock for you, hard-headed people? And he struck the rock out of anger. And because he did not follow directions, God says, you will not see the promised land. You can't cross the river Jordan. So he took Moses to a high vantage point, Mount Nebo, where he could look across the river Jordan and see the promised land. And he showed him all of the land that Israel was to inhabit. And then Jesus took Moses home. He killed Moses. He didn't kill him. He took the life right out of him. Now we understand that his body was buried on top of that mountain, but no man knows the place where Moses' body. Why is that important? Because the two witnesses in Revelation that come back to stand in the streets of Israel are going to be Moses and Elijah. Did you know how Elijah? He didn't die. Elijah got taken to heaven in a chariot of fire. And so we know what happened to his body. But those two bodies they're going to have bulletproof bodies. I'd like to have one of those now. I go hunting criminals and terrorists and that thing. They're going to have bulletproof bodies, and they're going to be resuscitated. They're going to stand in downtown Jerusalem. They're going to be on the news. They're going to preach the gospel, and they're not going to be able to be killed until their job is done. And so Satan wants to find the body of Moses. He wants to destroy that body so that they cannot be resuscitated to stand in the streets of Jerusalem during the tribulation. And so Michael argues with Satan about the whereabouts of the body of Moses. And this happened in Deuteronomy 32. And it's interesting that this is a story that was passed down through the Jewish people for generations, because this argument is not listed in the Old Testament. It doesn't talk about it. So we understand that this story was passed down for the generations, and Jude tells about the story of Satan arguing with Michael the archangel. And Michael does not call Satan names. Isn't it amazing that way back there, Michael knows he can kick Satan's rear end. He knows he can beat Satan up. See, Michael's bowed up. He's bowed. He's stout, and he's trained in military and warfare, hand-to-hand combat. And he knows he can beat Satan up, but he didn't. So it comes to our next point. Authority without integrity equals bullying and tyranny. So if you give somebody authority, absolute control, and they don't have integrity, guess what happens? They end up bullying. They end up being a tyrant. So we see here that Michael has integrity because he had the ability to thrash Satan. Not only did he not beat him up, he didn't even call him a name. And so point number 7 shows that Michael has self-control, discipline, and humility. Guess what the fruit of the Spirit is? See, we're commanded to have these also. Self-control. See, we could beat people up, but we don't do it. You can't go around punching people. No, you can't do that. Even though it might be in your ability, you don't go out and thrash people. You could even tongue thrash somebody. There's the tongue thrashing. But you know what you do? Zip. And sometimes you're bullying. You're just wanting to give it to them. Guess what? Zip. Throw the keyboard. Just like mine. Could have gave it to Satan. Discipline. That is self-discipline. Control. Humility. Michael handed it over to God. He said, the Lord rebuke you. So Michael had the power to crush, and he did not crush. That equals grace. So he had a grace mental attitude. I imagine he was thinking in the back of his mind, your day's coming, buddy. Your days are coming. See, Michael still remembers this. Your days are coming. I'll get a hold of you one day. And that gives us our next point. trusting God's plan and His timing. See, Michael has to wait. He's awaiting. And not only does Michael get to grab Satan by the shirt collar and kick his rear end out of heaven at the midpoint of the tribulation, it says in the Bible, a strong angel with a chain binds Satan and throws him into the bottom of the pit. You remember that scripture? I believe it's Michael going to get to do the job. God is saying, just hold up, Mike. Hold up. I know you want to thrash Satan, but I'm going to give you the job if you just patiently wait. At the second advent, I'm going to let you carry the heavy chain. Michael did no name calling. He could have given him all kinds of tongue thrashing and name calling, but he didn't do so. Now we see that our false teachers love to thrash dignitaries, talk bad about them. But point number 11 says, God places kings on their throne. You've got to look at, I don't know if you have time to look at Daniel chapter 2. See, God, the one reason we're in Jude is because of this. We've got the most messed up administration that we've ever had in the United States, but it's for a reason. Daniel chapter 2. I want you to look at verse 19. Then the secret was revealed to Daniel in a night vision. Do you know how you get revelation? How you get revealed? Bible doctrine. And you're thankful for it. Daniel was thankful for it, it says right here. So Daniel blessed the God of heaven, and Daniel answered and said, Blessed be the name of God forever and ever. His attitude for truth. For wisdom and might are His, omniscience and omnipotence. He changes the times and the seasons. Jesus Christ controls human history. He removes kings and raises up kings. Remember, Nebuchadnezzar was an evil ruler. He gives wisdom to the wise and knowledge to those who have understanding. He reveals deep and secret things. He knows what is in the darkness, and light dwells with Him. I thank you and praise you, O God of my Father. You have given me wisdom and might, and have now made known to me what we ask of you. For you have made known to us the king's demand. So we see the principle here that Jesus Christ controls history, and one of the ways that He does that is to place rulers. And I'm going to tell you today, Barack Hussein Obama was placed on his throne by Jesus Christ. And it's not for the blessing of the United States. No, it's not. It's our switch, friends. And we're going to suffer. We're going to suffer some as believers by association. But God is going to make that up to the super grace believer tenfold. And so that we are blessed in super grace while the rest of our nation is under discipline, and we can only hope and pray that people change their minds about Bible doctrine. That's the only thing that'll save it. And I believe this is the last, God has issued us a last warning. You always need to remember this. There's always hope for the United States. As long as we are here, there's always hope. We could be almost right to the point of breaking, and God can bring us back. You look at the Assyrians, where Jonah went and preached. He went and preached to the Assyrians, and they changed their minds. And they kept on for another 180 years, I believe it was, after that preaching of Jonah. So that revolution is the tool of Satan. We are not to instigate revolution. We're not to overthrow our government. When you say, well, what about the Revolutionary War? Well, guess what? It wasn't a true revolution because we did not overthrow the government of England. We simply drove them out. And so it should be named a war for independence. And you say, why are you saying all this? Because it wasn't that long ago I was ready to be a revolutionary leader. And you know what God did to me? He got me by the stuff of my hair and said, you look right there, son. Right there in the Bible. It's not your job to get out here and fire shots. It's your job to get in the Word and to teach. And that's how our nation is going to be saved. It's not by the ammunition and the guns. Bible doctrine is the answer. It's much more powerful than any weapon on earth. So we have to be very careful about what we say. And I'm going to say to you, even if we impeach Barack Obama, there's still no hope for our nation aside from Bible doctrine. And God will just give us another one that's worse. And so you have to understand, we respect that office with the utmost consideration. The man, not so much. I want to thank you all for your attention and attendance this evening. We've learned a lot from Jude verse 9, and we're going to continue on next Wednesday. We'll be here. The Wednesday after that we'll be off for Christmas. Brenda Livingston is with us. Thank you, Miss Brenda, for being there. We also have two different call-in users. Thank you all for calling in. James and Linda Dixon, Mr. and Miss Dixon from Arkadelphia. Linda Davis is with us from Hot Springs. And also Tommy Deal. Thank you, Mr. Tommy, for logging in. I don't think I recorded that.